Hi, I'm Lorraine Diona, and this is my presentation on observing myself as a critical reader in ENG 201. Starting with the reader response theory, this theory is important to being a critical reader as it helps to build your understanding and further thinking about all the information that the author is trying to apply in their writing. For example, the section on the reader response document called Critical Inquiry prompts you to ask questions about things that you didn't understand and what you would want to research on your own, which ensures that you are taking the next step into having a deeper understanding and interest in whatever you're reading. An example of this section being done in my own reader response, we can reference my reader response on The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien, and one of the thoughts I put in my section was, some things I would further research online is how skinny or muscular the men were when they had to carry so many things physically, and then how men coped with their trauma when they came home and couldn't keep it bottled up forever like how they did in war. Despite this thought not pertaining to a specific line or quote from the reading, it does make sense to be curious about and demonstrates my personal and deeper interest in the reading. The next part of my observation on being a critical reader is my critical analysis approach. The critical analysis approach is used to break down a text to find literary devices and techniques that contribute to the meaning and importance of what is being said. When I'm reading a text and forming a critical analysis, the main things I keep in mind are similes and metaphors, imagery, characterization, and words I lack full knowledge of. I enjoy this approach as a critical reader because it takes less initial thought to pull out these things in my reading, but once I look back and translate it, it makes me get to the next level of understanding and interpreting my reading. When it was my group's turn to present our critical analysis on the Kite Runner to the class, my focus was on symbolism, which is a part I often focused less on in the past. But having this assignment forced me to think more about symbolism in the book, and I actually found a greater interpretation of the novel, more specifically referencing a part from page 226 in the book that reads, "There is a way to be good again," he'd said, "a way to end the cycle, with a little boy, an orphan, Hassan's son, somewhere in Kabul." I went on to explain the symbolism of this quote, saying, returning Sohrab to Rahim Khan symbolizes Amir's idea of forgiveness, not only for his sins and secrets, but also for Baba's. With this evidence of my ability to use the critical analysis to my benefit, I can tell that I've improved since when I started doing them. Another big part of me becoming a better critical reader is using my reading strategies. Without using the provided document for the list of close reading strategies, I was already in a pretty good habit of using the ones listed. Starting with the tip for reading slow, I'm already a slow reader as is, and I often enjoy reading out loud as well because it helps me get more into the book and build a tone and a better perspective. I also reread the text when a sentence or passage is confusing to me, and I proceed to continue reading over until I understand. Sometimes I even go back and reread that part after reading on a couple pages. One thing I have done more often is searching up unfamiliar words or phrases, which was specifically for a sympathizer, as it was hard to read with a lot of confusing words for me. For example, a part of the novel on page 12 reads, "Having earned their precious positions via parental connections, they bore themselves with the herky-jerky nervousness of marionettes." And I did not understand the reference to the word marionettes, which is defined by Google Dictionary as a puppet worked from above by strings attached to its limbs. Once I understood the word, I understood that the author was comparing the high-positioned shoulders to being puppets. Lastly, active reading and taking notes on what I'm reading is very helpful to me, and I started doing it a lot more for this course specifically. The notes I would write included things that were listed separately on the given document, such as definitions of unfamiliar words, repetition, imagery, literary elements, and simple observations I had. An example of these notes could be found in my annotations on The Things They Carried on page 6 when it reads, "Imagination was a killer." I highlighted this and noted that it was a metaphor that meant when the soldiers were climbing through the tunnel, they tried not to think about it because of how frightening it was. Moving on to digital tool applications, I ordered the listed applications in order of the most helpful to me. I feel that everything in this course has helped my overall development of being a critical reader. With reference to Google Docs, it is where I completed most of my online work, and it allowed me to make annotations in text easily, type long and easy to read paragraphs, and organize all my documents on it so that it was easy access in times of need. Then the use of blogging on the websites for my book groups, it was beneficial to me because it gave me pressure to build a strong paragraph about my novel and finish it on time because I knew my group mates were relying on me, and I was able to read what other people in my group said as well. The third most useful was the website platform itself, Weebly, that I used for my book group because it was a challenge to use, but I learned how to use it, and with my group, built an exceptional website despite the fact that I did not enjoy using this digital tool. Lastly, Microsoft Teams was probably the least beneficial to my development of being a critical reader because I used it once for about 10 minutes and it required downloading another app where there's more common or simple apps that I could have used such as Zoom or Google Meet or meeting in person. The next part of my development as a critical reader is my connections to other classes. One connection I made earlier in this course was with my first year writing seminar because both courses were going into detail about literature of the Vietnam War. In my writing seminar class, we had to do an assignment researching a social justice artifact, and the example given by my professor was the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. He explained that this was a symbol of something greater, and in the class, we picked apart different aspects of it, including using how looking at the wall makes us feel. This is clearly a significant connection to this course because most of it was referencing the Vietnam War, especially in the beginning when we were talking about the traveling wall that some students visited and then talked about in class. Following this, I ended up choosing a social justice artifact that also related to the Vietnam War because I was very interested in it and wanted to learn more about it, especially for this class. I ended up choosing a song called I Say a Little Prayer by Dionne Warwick, and it was about the people at home remaining optimistic about their loved ones fighting in the war. Doing this assignment in a separate class made me more interested and passionate in this class. The next thing I will be talking about are challenges I faced. This was one of the more thoughtful courses I had this semester, where I felt I had to find passion in all I was learning in order to produce quality work. One of the biggest challenges I faced was learning my time management, especially in the beginning of the semester. I was continuously falling behind on work in all of my classes, and I was learning how to use Blackboard and how college differs from high school. To help myself get on track and ahead with my assignments, I changed multiple things in my daily activity, including buying a planner, using the Notes app on my phone to plan out my day and list things I need to complete, and taking note of where and how my best work is completed, which, for example, determining if I complete more work at my desk in my dorm or at the Pitt Center, and another example is if I complete more work with or without music. Even now, at the end of this semester, I am still struggling with time management, including this project, as I know is one of the most important projects of the course and takes a lot of work and thought. Overall, I feel like I have grown in so many ways since the beginning of the year, and I'm still continuing to grow to be a responsible and thoughtful student. This literature course itself was a very memorable experience for me. Because this is my first ever semester in college, it will always feel memorable to me overall, especially in this course because it was the most favorable to me. If I had to pick the most memorable thing about this class, I think it would be the unique way it was to any other class I'd ever taken. My first impression when I saw the title of the class, I had thought it would be a normal English class with basic reading and writing, but the way the course taught me techniques on my reading comprehension more while consistently learning more about the Vietnam War was different and made the class so much more interesting. Going to this class was often something I looked forward to because I wanted to use the reading and writing techniques I was learning to continue building my knowledge about something of my interest. And finally, an aha moment I have experienced is realizing that if I want to do the work, I will, and finding that want can be built. One thing that stuck in my head was a reference my mom made to me from that 70s show, where Ashton Kutcher says he cheated on his test to pass, but then explains he cheated by memorizing all the information so he knew the answers. The person he was talking to then said to him, he didn't cheat, he just studied. This reference stuck with me because it helped me realize that doing the given work and taking the help that is provided makes my life so much easier. I use this source of thought as my motivation to complete my work to the fullest, especially in this class. I made sure I put an exceptional amount of effort in my annotating, writing, and reading. Lastly, is my works cited. I'm so thankful I took this course and I've learned so much that I will continue to use in my future.